Good afternoon, everybody. We are back in the carport today during this unprecedented heat wave that we're having to deal with something that probably gets you hot under the collar from time to time. This A-pillar trim right here. A lot of moving parts to this, how it connects on, and there's a lot to know, but once you know it, it's not that complicated. Let's start by talking about how to take it off. So I've got my favorite little blue pry tool here. You could use a flathead screwdriver. But what we're gonna do is start here with the door open at the top, prying this up and working our way down. So we're rolling it towards the inside of the car. This is what it should look like if you do it correctly. You've got the white and the gray pieces off. Remaining are the green pieces. These guys here come off by pulling up gently on this green tab and then sliding it back. Put it back on, you do the opposite. Put it on here, push it down, clicks in place. Let's go ahead and go over all the different pieces. Of course, you've got the A-pillar trim itself, and then next you have the white clip, and then the gray clip, and then finally a green clip. First, let's talk a little bit about the A-pillar and what you need to look for. Here, the A-pillar trim has a point at the bottom that goes towards the center of the car, and then you see it flares out. So this is a passenger side, and the one on the right here is a driver's side. They have two rubber gaskets, one that runs the entire length or almost the entire length. This goes against your windshield, and then there's another one which runs about 2/3 of the way along here. This goes against your door. It's very common that one of them or both of them will be loose at the ends. After hearing from a disappointed customer, I've started experimenting with some adhesives to see what I could get to hold. This is just my first attempt using super glue, so I can't stand by its longevity, but here it is, and it is holding it in place. Luckily, this isn't responsible for keeping water out of anything important, for example, your car. Your windshield itself is sealed, and that's what prevents any water from getting in there. So for a lot of people, the gasket is just aesthetic. Also, you'll notice down at the bottom there's a spongy material. It can get quite dirty, so when I pull them out of the junkyards, I tend to wipe them down and wash them. When you're looking at the A-pillar trim, you'll notice that there's these bridges here that hold the clips in place. We'll learn a lot more about these later, but it is important to check that you have those intact. If the bridges are missing, or if these tiny little tabs here are missing off of the white clips, you can get away with some adhesive. Just make sure to use something strong. The shops that replace your windshields tend to just use this blobby stuff that is loose, but if you get yourself a nice strong 2-part epoxy, you can put it down there. It would go right here onto this white section, the flat section, and then lay on the spine of the A-pillar. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and talk about the pieces individually. First, you've got this green clip, then the gray, and then the white. They all interlock together using a series of teeth. The green one slides here inside of this track and has these ribs that interlock into the corresponding gray ribs underneath. The white clip also has ribs or teeth, and they lock into the gray. You'll push this one in, and you'll hear it clicking as you do to make sure that it's locking in. This is not the way that you're going to install it when we get to the final installation, but it does help illustrate what's going to be happening out of sight. If you have to pull it out, you can just grab onto one of the sides and pull. It tends to come easier that way than it does coming out this way. The anatomy of the white clips It has these wings on the side with these ribs for interlocking. And then at the top, it has these two tabs. This one's actually missing its teeth, and this is really important to notice. Now, if you've got these fellas still stuck on the white tab and they're still on the A-pillar, you're going to want to slide them forward. And then you've slightly got to lift this end just to get it over top of this bridge, and then you can continue to push it that way. Now, these fellas can look intimidating, but once you know what you're doing, it gets pretty easy. See, there's these triangular tracks in here, and that mirrors the shape of the green piece here. So essentially what you've got to do is just line up the two sides, pull it towards you. Now, it has some ribs where it's going to click it and hold it in place. You want to pull it hard up against the frame of the car. If you ever need to slide one of these gray pieces off, it's the teeth underneath of these two tabs that are holding it in place. So if you pry them both up gently, you then can slide this piece back in towards the center of the car. When you're examining these white clips to see if they're still usable, an important thing is to see whether it still has these teeth here holding on to this. There are these little tabs that grab on. This one's still in good shape, but down here you can see both of the tabs are missing. That causes this white clip to slide freely. Now, you could use some adhesive and get that to stick back in place, but if you've got access to a new clip, I'd go ahead and install it. And if you do need to remove one of the white clips, these teeth play an important role as well. You're going to want to pry those out gently to the side and then slide it this way. That'll give this enough room to pop up and come back out in reverse. One thing to keep in mind with these is you'll notice on this one, and this one, the teeth are facing away from me. But on the last two, on the bottom two, here and here, they're facing in the opposite direction. I keep a bunch of these in stock, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a new one on there. There's the part number if you ever need to order them. Of course, you can get them off of elementdiy.com as well. And so now it's time to put a new one in. It's important to distinguish which way it's supposed to go. This has a flat bridge, and then here in the back has these little notches for the teeth. So we wanna make sure that the teeth are facing back towards the notches. You also want the flat part of this facing up, not the concave part. The concave part goes down over top of this spine that runs down the middle. You'll slide this piece in first. That'll allow you enough room then to tuck this bottom tongue underneath of the angled bridge and get it to snap back in place. So we've got all 5 of our white clips in here. We've replaced one of them, and we've got all of these set up. We're gonna go ahead and pop it on now. This with the corner on it goes down on the bottom, and then we'll just line these up. You'll hear it starting to click in as we get it going. Now I'm gonna wanna go over that again off camera so I have both of my hands available so I can really push down on it. Okay, so off camera I was able to push it down. I even, in some of the places, you know where the clips are now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're gonna even give a little pound to them to get that final click in. You know, each one click that you hear is it coming a little bit tighter. So I did that off camera as well. I hope you found something in that video helpful so that you'll be able to more effectively tackle your next problem with your A-pillar trim. Thanks again, as always, for joining me in the carport, and life is what you make it.